Hello friends, and welcome to the Hanged Man in the Moon. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, if you are a returning visitor, you probably know that this is my series in which I use tarot and oracle cards to explore topics related to living the intentional life. And I have a beautiful spread already laid out for you. But before we get to that, let me ask you a question. Do you know of anyone who is, and this is a term that I just came up for myself, today even, do you know anyone who might be called an aggressive achiever? Do you know what I mean? Somebody who sets a goal and makes it happen with strong willpower. Somebody who works hard and maybe plays hard, but really aggressively pursues the goals and aims that they have set for themselves. Yeah, these kinds of people are often very successful, and that's wonderful. Yeah, well, an aggressively achieving person oftentimes has the stuff. They have the house, or they have the money, or perhaps they are the ones who are very prolific at creating art, or they are very good at finances and business. And that's all wonderful, that's beautiful. We came here into this physical universe, into these beautiful bodies that we are co-creating to do all of that. That's a wonderful thing, that's experience. But in the pursuit of goals, not all, but many of the aggressive achievers don't really take time to do the inner work. And so, many of them are not on the deepest level very happy. And so some of them compensate for that deep unhappiness by achieving aggressively, to cover up or to hide that inner pain. On the other hand, those of us, myself included, do the inner work. Perhaps you're one of us. In fact, probably if you're listening to this or watching this video, you are one of us, one of the ones who does the inner work. That's probably why you're here. And so we do that. We look for hidden treasures in our unconscious. Yeah? We open ourselves to spirit and call forth magic into our lives. We do the work of looking for our traumas and our wounds and do the processes of healing and treatment in hopes to let go of those wounds and traumas, right? And that's wonderful. That's important work. If it weren't important, I wouldn't be here. However, I think, and this week's Tarot and Oracle spread seems to be pointing to this, some of us get stuck in therapy. Do you know what I mean? We get stuck in the treatment. We get so wrapped up in our cycles of looking for the trauma, trying to be perfectly healed, trying to be enlightened or fully self-actualized or fully individuated. We get so wrapped up in our development and our healing that we don't take the next step forward in the real world. We don't act, we don't create, we don't get out there and do stuff because we're trapped sometimes in a cycle of healing and searching and therapy, which are all good things, but that's not where we want to live our lives. And sometimes we deceive ourselves that we need to be perfectly healed and perfectly individuated in order to start moving forward. This week's Tarot and Oracle spread is telling us that that might be a trap as well. So, friends, without further ado, I will show you the spread, and then we'll talk about it, okay? Here it is. This is a beautiful spread, isn't it? I love these cards, I love these decks, and if you're curious about them, at the end of this video, there will be a short clip that gives you the names of the creators and the names of the decks, and also in the description box below, there will be links for you to go to check out the decks and see if you want to purchase one or maybe all of them. Those links are not there for my benefit. I don't get any financial remuneration. If you use those links, they're there for your benefit and hopefully for the benefit of the creators to try to promote their wonderful work. So, check out the decks, they're wonderful. Now, you just saw that spread, and just in case you are new to this channel, you're new to this series, let me give you a brief overview of the spread. There is a longer video explaining the spread and how I got to it and what it all means on my channel. I've got a playlist called Spreads, and this spread is called the Ace of Discs spread. So if you want to check that out, go check that out. But a brief overview. There were 4 cards in the center. They give us the thesis statement of the spread, the main idea. And then above those 4 cards, there were 3 from a different deck, and they give us the air, where our thoughts are, what we are looking at, what we are perceiving. Now, at the bottom, there were 3 cards, and they give us the earth, what we are experiencing in the real world, what we are doing in the world, the physicality, the stuff, the actions, the work, all of that. And then on either side of the 4 cards in the center, there were 2 cards from an oracle deck, and they give us advice. Integrated. We integrate them to one piece of advice for this overall spread. Does that make sense? So we've got the thesis, our thoughts, our work, and then the advice. So, friends, that's the order we're going to look at them in, and we'll start with the thesis statement. Here it is. This is a beautiful deck, isn't it? I just love it. I think it's gorgeous. I hope you do too. So, friends, you just saw, starting in the upper right-hand corner, going clockwise, we had the 4 of discs, the 10 of cups, the sun reversed, and then the 4 of cups. Now, there were 2 4s on the same side, which is interesting. So we start with a 4 and we end with a 4. And you notice that one of the cards was reversed. Now this deck is intended to be read with reversals. So what I do every time I riffle shuffle the deck, yes, I riffle shuffle my decks. Every time I riffle shuffle the deck, I cut the deck in half and I turn one side upside down, I turn one side around and I shuffle. And then I cut the deck and I turn one side around and I shuffle. I intentionally shuffle in reversals to this deck every time I riffle shuffle. So that's how we got this set of cards appearing for us. And I'm going to read them in the order that they were laid out because I don't see a clear indication that they need to be read in a different way. So we'll start with the 4 of discs and work our way clockwise. Now, the 4 of discs, what is that card? The association, the astrological association for this card is Mercury in Taurus and also Venus in Aries. So none of these are really all that comfortable. They're not exactly in their domiciles, as they say. Yeah, Mercury in Taurus. Mercury's domicile on that side of the zodiac is Gemini. So in Taurus, there's a little bit of a discomfort there. Venus in Aries is also a little bit uncomfortable. Yeah, her planet is her sign, Venus's sign, is on that side of the zodiac is Taurus, which Mercury is in, right? Mars is for Aries. So we've got people a little bit shifted out of their domiciles. We've got planets shifted outside of their domiciles, but still, Venus in Aries. Venus is with her partner, her mate. She's in the house of her mate, and we've got a beautiful card here. We got the 4 of discs looking like this. We've got this eagle, right? In a bed of fire with the cups above in a rainbow. And we've got the flowers growing on all sides. I'm sorry, what am I saying? Cups. Oops, we don't have any cups. I'm looking at my Xerox copy of the card as I'm showing it to you, and it looks different. So, we got the eagle, we got the moon above the eagle, and then below we've got the 4 discs, each disc representing one of the elements, fire, water, air, and earth. So this beautiful card, we get the idea of the eagle sitting on a nest of 4 eggs that are in a bed of fire. What's going on with that? Well, for one idea for this card, we've got the idea of belonging to a privileged group. We have definite benefits to being in this privileged group. We all have our own privileges, and we don't want to compare. My privilege may be more than yours. Yours may be more than mine. You may have more privilege. You may feel like you have less privilege than I do. But we each have our own privileges, and we each are more privileged than others, but we don't want to go there today in this reading. We want to acknowledge the privilege that we do have. Whether you think your skin color is not the color of a privileged person, or you think your gender is not the gender of a privileged person, or you think your nationality is not the nationality of a privileged person, we each have our own set of privileges, which are different from each other. And that's great. But each one of the privileges that we do have also carries with it some baggage. Our privileges have benefits, but they also carry expectations along with them. Whatever that privilege is, that privilege carries expectations that we will achieve a certain thing, that we will become a certain thing, that we will have a certain kind of lifestyle. And those expectations about outcomes can destroy our self-esteem if those outcomes don't match who we really are. Have you ever felt that way? A lot of us, I think a great portion of us felt that way when we were teenagers. Not 100%, but many of us felt that way when we were teenagers. We didn't feel like we really fit into the mold that people were trying to put us in because they perceived us a certain way because of our privileges. So we do have privilege. Each one of us does. A certain particular kind of privilege. And those privileges have both benefits and also burdens. We also have the idea of the eagle, right? The eagle is here nurturing the 4 elements beneath him, her, them. In an extreme heat. You see that fire there, right? That extreme heat is very uncomfortable. It helps to keep the eggs warm, certainly, but too much heat can also cook the eggs, and we don't want that. So that's why the moon above is of such great benefit. The moon above gives us the dewy moisture that we need to mitigate, to dampen, to regulate the amount of heat that those 4 eggs beneath the eagle are receiving. The moon above gives us enough of the dewy shelter to prevent an emotional desert, a drying out or a cooking of who we are, or of the things that we're trying to use. Emotions, the dew of emotions helps to temper our passions so that we don't burn out or we don't drown. Now there's a good balance here in this 4 of discs. Now the eagle, who is the eagle? The eagle is one symbol of regality. It's the symbol of both the emperor and the empress. Here we're going to think of it as the symbol of the empress. So the eagle has children down there in those little eggs, and the eagle's children know that they are nobility, that they are the children of the empress mother. And as children of the Empress Mother, we know that we have our willpower, we have our drive, we have our ambition and our passions of a raptor. eagles are raptors, right? They go out, they see what they want, and they dive down and they get it. We have that willpower. We have that passion of a raptor within us, which is a wonderful gift. But it can also be consuming, right? We can become aggressive achievers, as I mentioned, if we stay only here. Now, the large gift of inheritance from this eagle, slip of the tongue, from this eagle can become an equally large burden. A burden of having to achieve and a burden of not having space to do other kinds of work. We're perched, we're so intent at the goal, at finding the goal and getting the goal, that we don't take the time to do other things. What other things could there possibly be? Well, there are tens of cups. Tens of cups. Here we have our emotional card, right? Our first emotional card of this series of 4. And the Ten of Cups, this is a beautiful card. It reminds us a little bit of Noah's Ark. Now, the Ten of Cups. The associations are, the tens are the signs of the suit. So the tens of wands would be Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius, right? The Ten of Cups, the 3 water signs, Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. Personally, I have 2 of them. Yeah, my rising is Scorpio, my moon is in Pisces. So this is a card which is very suitable for me, especially. But what do we see? We see this, it's a very complex card. Yeah, we've got the sun here with an eye in the center, and there's a tear rolling down the eye. There's a little bit of sadness, or there's a lot of sadness indicated in this card. We also have the rainbow. Do you see the rainbow? Now, it's very small. Underneath the pentacle, is it a pentacle? Or is it, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's a 7-pointed star. Okay, so underneath the 7-pointed star, 7 planets, right? There is a rainbow just above my finger here. Can you see it? Maybe you can't. Believe me, it's there. There's also an ark right here, a boat in the water. So this reminds us a little bit of Noah's Ark, as when Noah sees the rainbow. Where's the bird? Where is the bird? I forgot. Okay, maybe there wasn't a bird. I placed a bird. Oh, there it is. There's the bird. I'm so sorry. Right there above the 7-pointed star, there is a dove. So a beautiful card, rich with symbols. And reminding us of Noah's Ark. Why is it reminding us of Noah's Ark? Well, what is the ark? In a sense, the ark was a womb floating on a sea of water, which is what a womb can be perceived as, or what the womb was thought of as in the distant past. The womb was thought as a watery place. And in a sense, it is a watery place. Inside of the placenta, there's amniotic fluid, maybe my pronunciation is wrong, but fluid within which a child can grow, right? When a woman becomes pregnant and the embryo and the egg, okay, words are gone. The egg attaches itself to the lining of the womb and starts to grow and divide, and it creates a placenta, and inside the placenta, the embryo begins to grow into a fetus, right? Okay, biology, poor lesson over, and so it's a watery thing. So we are pregnant. The Noah's Ark is, in a sense, that embryonic sac, ready to burst forth into the world anew, afresh, new life after the deluge of the flood. So there's an idea of being pregnant with promise, but not ready to be born quite yet. Preparation for rebirth of the light. which is appropriate because right now we just passed the winter solstice in the north, which is the time of the rebirth of the light, which leads us into Christmas, right? Advent ends in Christmas, which is again another sign of the rebirth of the light into the world. So this is a very appropriate reading for this time of year in the Northern Hemisphere, especially. So we're pregnant with promise, ready for the rebirth of light, but not quite yet. And that's what that tear is there for, yeah? And you'll also notice that there was a cross here. In the center of the seven-pointed star, which again are the seven planets, there is a cross. The cross is raised by the bird of Sophia, Holy Spirit, Sophia, the wisdom of God, the divine feminine, which comes down to the earth and manifests and creates the earth or the material realm for us. Now the cross is raised by Sophia in front of the sun, Saul, our soul, and anchors itself, and our soul, Saul, our soul, anchors itself to that cross. Yeah, the sun is attached to a rope, and that rope goes up to an anchor which is hung on the cross, the anchor of the cross. Anchors and crosses are mutual symbols for a similar thing of the crucifixion in some places. Yeah, the sign of the anchor was another symbol for Christ, of the cross and also the fish, Pisces. So all of these things are here in this wonderful little card, right? So the raised by Sophia, the soul latches on to the cross raised by Sophia with the rainbow of possibility behind. So we've got this possibility, but we're latched to the cross of our suffering, which is why there's a tear running down the eye of the sun. So that's what all of this is. Yeah, Noah still in the ark after 39 perhaps days and not having seen the bird yet of promise is still feeling kind of sad. But there is the promise there. This is maybe the moment when the dove with the olive branch arrives. So all in front of us is potential, the potential of prima materia, the alchemical material in which can be converted into the gold of enlightenment and divinity and resurrection and the new light of the world. Possibilities and perfection are potential here. Now, our personal happiness can also be extending. Okay, so we've got all that. We've also got the idea of a more modern, perhaps, Ten of Cups, but also Terre de Marseille, Ten of Cups, where our emotions can also be feeding and extended to those around. Now, the Ten of Cups, whenever I read the Ten of Cups in Terre de Marseille or in a Rider-Waite-Smith card, it's the 10 coming from the 9. And especially in the RWS system, the 9 is the large dude sitting in front of a bunch of golden cups in the background, cross-armed and very, very self-satisfied, right? Emotionally filled emotionally, satisfied. So then what is the 10 after that? The 10 after that for me is we are so satisfied now that we are able to spread our emotional sustenance around to the people that we care for, around to our people, our tribe, our group, whoever that might be, whether it be our biological family, possible, our intentional family, possible, our friends, our co-workers, whoever they are. We spread out our emotional sustenance to help to feed and sustain those around us. That's what the 10 is for me as well. Our personal happiness, our personal satisfaction now is enough to be able to lift up and feed those around us. But we're not there yet. We're still not there yet. We only need to break through. We need to break through our fear that we are alone in a hostile environment, in a hostile universe. Yeah? That we are trapped in this ship in the middle of a flooded ocean of sorrow and loneliness. All we need to do is break through that misunderstanding. And then we have all of this potential. We have this potential to receive blessing and to give it out. To receive divine inspiration and share it. And notice that we are not lost. We've got our anchor hooked onto the suffering that we've had in the past. Not that we want to drag that suffering along with us, but it anchors us to the present moment. Until we're able to break free, break out, and move forward. So here we are in our ships, right? What are we going to do? Well, we're going to do this. We're going to do the sun reversed. Now, the sun is Pisces. We got Pisces emphasized again. We got Pisces a second time. And reversed, this card, instead of being the active one out in the world, this is advising us or reminding us to do the inner work. The inner work of bringing aspects of self together. Now, let me show you the card upright. We got this beautiful figure with the head of a sun leaning against a tree with leaves that it's not full of leaves, but the tree has leaves sprouting out. It's a fresh start, right? It's a new pastoral beginning. And then in the background, we see these two figures in a passionate embrace. And so when this card gets reversed, those two figures are within us. They could be the right and left sides of our minds. They could be our conscious and our unconscious. They could be our hopes and our fears. But we want to bring aspects of ourselves together into a unity of interior androgyny, because that's who we really are. We were born as androgynous beings into these bodies, and we split ourselves as we began life here. And we selected, this is who I'm going to be, this is not who I'm going to be. And some of that got moved down into just general unconscious, into shadow. And some of that got moved farther down into our anima animus, that part that we see as other, that we are at once attracted to and repel. We want to integrate all of that into the full androgyny that we truly are. Our male, our female, our thinking, our feeling, our sensing, our intuiting, all of that. We want to bring all of those aspects of self together into the unity of who we truly are. We want to recognize the truth of both our unconscious and our conscious minds. We want to recognize that both our unconscious and our active minds determine our experience. We create the world around us. And right now, a lot of us, most of us, almost 99% of us, maybe more, are projecting parts of ourselves out onto the world. And some of that stuff that we're projecting we like, we're attracted to, and some of that stuff we're projecting we don't like, and we're fighting against. Instead, we want to bring all of that together. Because right now, remember, we see that here, we see this here. We are on the cusp of rebirth. And the sun reversed is reminding us of that. We are on the cusp of rebirth. We want to release ourselves from our programmed thinking, from our bondage of roles of victim or sinner or aggressor and attacker and controller. We want to release ourselves from these roles and thereby gain access to the fullness of who we are, our personal unconscious, our shadow, our anima animus, the fullness of self. That is our purpose here in life. It's particularly our interior purpose, because that is the path of either integration in the Jungian sense or self-actualization in the Maslowian sense. So we want to do the work. But that's not the end of the story, is it? The end of the story, well, at least for this spread, is the Four of Cups. The Four of Cups, this beautiful card, but a disturbing card, right? Do you see the sun above? Do you see the four cups in the water? They are not together, they are separate, right? They're separated by the rolling waves of the ocean. And the Four of Cups is Jupiter in Scorpio, which can be very uncomfortable. Yeah? Mars is the planet for Scorpio. Jupiter gives all of this in expansion to the potentially very uncomfortable Scorpio person. It's also Mars in Libra. Also not quite a good fit. Right? Mars wants to be in Scorpio, but now is in this Libra state, which is the house of his partner. Remember, Venus was in Aries. She was in the house of her partner with the Four of Discs. Here in the Four of Cups, Mars is in the house of his partner, Venus. And so is trying to navigate this need for all this balance and all this interaction and Libra stuff, right? If you're a Libra, I'm sorry, I'm not really trying to throw shade on you. It's just the way Mars feels inside of Libra. It's uncomfortable. It's discombobulating. So what is this trying to tell us? Especially this image. What is this image trying to tell us? This image, the sun has energy. This energy is shining down onto the water of our emotions, and those emotions are upset, right? They are agitated. And sometimes energy, even very beneficial energy, is disruptive. Yeah, it unsettles us. Sometimes it causes us to lose our focus. We get rattled. We get those four that could be together get dispersed, separated. So this is a sign of restlessness, right? A restless period. Dissatisfaction. Often dissatisfaction, right? When we look at the card from Pamela Coleman Smith's art, what do we see? We see the male-looking figure sitting under a tree, cross-legged, cross-armed, looking at these three cups with a very dissatisfied look on his face, and off to the side and behind, there's this divine hand holding this beautiful shining cup, but the figure sitting on the ground does not see the blessing being offered, but looks at these three cups that don't really make him happy. Yeah, so we still get that idea here as well, that idea of dissatisfaction, or that our fantasies aren't quite matching our perception of what reality we've intended for ourselves. Now, so that dissatisfaction, that, well, this isn't exactly what I thought it would be, this ain't what I wanted it to be, it's not exactly what I'd anticipated, or I'd planned, or I'd intended for myself. Remember, the life of intention is a life living on a powerful stream of intention, moving in the direction of what we have created for ourselves, and we move in that direction, we see what is coming, and we look at it, and sometimes we think, that ain't it. That's not it. That's not what I had planned for myself. What is that? Yeah? So we lose our motivation sometimes. Now our attention starts to drift. We meander, we wander, we drift around. Now Scorpio in this card lacks the fire of its Mars powerhouse. with Venus in having the reins, right? So it's time to get back into the driver's seat, is what this card is saying. Now it's time to get back into the driver's seat and own our power, rediscover the power, because we haven't lost it. We don't lose our power. We just lose our grip on it. We lose our ability to have access to it, because our power is the powerful flow of intention. It's always there. We just let go of the wheel. Yeah? So we want to attend to this power that is available, always available to us, this solar power, which right now is what is causing the disruption. If we focus that power into what we want to do, then we start moving forward again. Now we absorb that power. Instead of letting it disrupt us, we absorb the power in our core, and then we focus it into opening ourselves to the current that is driving us forward in the direction of the things that we have planted for ourselves, whatever they are. What are the things that you've planted on your powerful river of intention? Is it a wonderful, happy family? Is it a job that inspires you? Is it an artistic creation? Is it a loving relationship? Is it a vacation? Is it money? You can put money on your powerful flow of intention. Money is an okay thing. Now, we don't have to disparage money. Money is neither good nor bad. It's what we do with it, right? So, what do you want? So, how do we open ourselves? It asks energy of us to keep ourselves, maintain our open stance, to have access to the powerful flow of intention. And that's what this card is here to remind us of. Put your hands on the steering wheel. Put your foot on the ignition and start moving forward again. So that we're not stuck in... Where are we? So that we're not stuck in the boat. Where's the boat? Where's the boat? So, scheisse. So that we're not stuck in the boat. Right? So that we're not stuck in endless cycles of doing the inner work. And maybe we don't need ourselves to be fully individuated before we take the next step and we move forward from this, so that we get past this distraction and dissatisfaction with who we are and where we are. And there's a quote I want to read from the book, the guidebook for this deck, because I think it's very informative for the Four of Cups. And it's right there in front of me. What Mars forgets, but Venus remembers. And remember, Mars is in Libra here. What Mars forgets, especially in Libra, but Venus remembers, is that the turbulence we perceive from the environment is usually the very same turbulence we are ourselves generating and emanating due to a knot of unspoken, unresolved feelings. Let me say that again. What Mars forgets, but Venus remembers, is that the turbulence we perceive in our environment, from the environment, is usually the very same turbulence we are ourselves generating and emanating due to a knot of unspoken, unresolved feelings. Now, we're projecting those things out into our environment, and that's what we're experiencing. But our environment is a mirror of what is happening inside. And so, what do? We're doing the work of the Sun in reverse, of bringing ourselves together. We're doing the 10 of Cups of getting ready to move out into the world, and then we put our hands on the wheel and we start moving. And we don't wait until everything is finished. We can do both. And that's part of perhaps the sun in reverse as well, of doing both the inner work and the outer work. We can bring those together as well. Does that make sense? So that's what this set of 4 cards is here reminding us of, or helping us to take note of, whether we're in it now or we come into that situation sometime in the future. That yes, we are the children of the Empress. We, all of us are, with our privileges, our own particular privileges, which are both benefits and burdens. And from that burden side, we sometimes find ourselves in the Ten of Cups situation of feeling both alone and doing it all on our own in a hostile universe, but truly we have potential. That potential is there. Yeah, we have the sun there. We have a rainbow available to us. We are hooked onto the cross of our suffering. We're not really adrift, but we're not quite there yet. And all that we ask of ourselves is to be ready to move out of our ark onto dry land. And so how do we do that? Well, we do the sun in reverse. We do the inner work of bringing aspects of self together to the fullness of who we are, so that we can be the enlightened, individuated, self-actualized ones. But we don't have to wait for that to be finished, because waiting for that gets us trapped in an endless cycle of therapy, the therapeutic trap. So instead of when we notice that we might be finding ourselves stuck in a trap of therapy, shadow work, healing the inner child, whatever it is we're working on to do the sun in reverse. When we notice that we've been spending perhaps a little bit too much time in that, and we're noticing a dissatisfaction in our exterior lives, well, we can recognize that dissatisfaction of our interior lives is a dissatisfaction that we're projecting. And so what do we want to do? We want to put our hands on the steering wheel and start moving forward. But not leaving behind the truth that we are still doing the inner work as well. Does that make sense? So this idea is going to be echoed in other parts of the spread. Let's take a look at the air portion of the spread. Here we are in the air of the spread, and I love the simplicity of this deck because it invites us in to experience the symbols of the card ourselves. It invites us in. And you saw from left to right, we had the High Priestess, the Ten of Wands, and then the Fool. I love this progression. So we'll start with the High Priestess. Yeah? In this card, we've got a beautiful image of the shell on the beach. We've got the water for the High Priestess in the water of the, I believe, ocean. And we've got the sand. That's where we as High Priestess are. And we're looking at this conch shell. And you'll notice that in the conch shell, there is some water. That are perhaps personal, unconscious, which is part of the larger ocean of our collective unconscious, right? And you notice the disc or the white orb in the middle. At first sight, it looks like it's a pearl, like there's a pearl floating in this water in the conch shell. But actually, that is a reflection of the moon. We see the moon reflected in the conch shell. So we've got that moon symbol as well for the High Priestess. It's a beautifully, ingeniously done card. And we also see the stars of the night sky. I doubt, probably you can't see them as I'm holding it up for you now, but they're there. High Priestess, beautiful. We've got the watery connection. We've got the connection for our unconscious. We've got the reflected light of the moon reflected again in the water in the conch shell. Lovely image, beautiful image. So here we have our intuition, right? We have our sacred knowledge, our inner knowledge of the divine heavens of the sky. Yeah, there's our conscious knowledge of the divine as we look up at the sky and we see the beauty of the stars and we imagine the creating divine that has made all of that. And then there's the reflection of all of that in our inner world, which is our sacred interior knowledge of the divine. A reflection that because we are the divine in these human bodies, right? You acknowledge that for yourself, do you not? I hope. Yes? Good. Good, good. Because you are. You are the divine having a human experience. Just like I am, just like everybody else that you love and you don't love is. We're all the divine. This is also the sacred feminine, right? We see the container, a watery container of the shell, reminding us of another kind of feminine, female, not so much feminine, but female presenting image of the feminine, which is beautiful, I think, a beautiful idea of the watery womb, which is also a container, a vessel for the divine, for the birthing of a new being into the world, a new divine being into the world, right? It's the subconscious mind, it's clairvoyance, it's ability to perceive. Now, some people see the high priestess as a gatekeeper. I do not. The high priestess is not a gatekeeper to me. She is the guide into our sacred knowledge. She's the one who leads the way, shows the way, opens the door for us to enter into our personal sacred knowledge, our deep unconscious knowledge. So that's where we begin. We begin with our entrance into our inner divine, our inner knowledge, our intuition. And we move right to a very interesting card, right? The Ten of Wands, not a happy card. We're invited here to go in and pick up all of those wands. You notice that there are 5 light and 5 dark, right? So these things that we are carrying, some of them are wonderful, beneficial, light things. Some of them are dark, heavy things, right? But altogether, there are so many of them. It's the card of hard work, right? It's the card of being burdened, of extra responsibility, travail, as they say. But it's near the end, right? We're getting close to completion. In Pamela Coleman Smith's art, what do we see? We see the guy holding the 10 wands, but very in the distance, but not the very far distance, but in the distance we see perhaps where he's trying to go. Yeah, he's almost there. So, still carrying a big burden, but almost there, almost near completion. So what is that trying to tell us? Now, there could be exhaustion. I think this is reminding us that, yes, we want to go here. We want to go in here. But if we stay in here, this is where we're going to end up. There is a burden. There is an exhaustion that can happen in doing this work exclusively. There is exhaustion to doing the internal work. We can tire ourselves out by wrestling with our inner demons, by excavating what is in there, what is in there. Yeah? Sometimes we get so wrapped up in doing this, which is a beautiful thing to do, that this can become the Ten of Wands. It can become a burden. It can become hard work. It can feel like a labor of love, a labor of enlightenment. But have you ever sat for meditation for 10,000 hours? That's what the idea is. We do anything for 10,000 hours and we become masters of it. And so, for those of us who sit in meditation, The idea is we sit for 10,000 hours and we will become enlightened because we'll become masters of our meditation, right? Can you imagine how much of a burden 10,000 hours of meditation is? If that's what we're doing, if we're calculating, okay, I've one more hour done, one more hour done, one more hour done. Yeah, even something as beneficial to us as meditation can become a burden. And so what do we do? What is the suggestion here? The suggestion is the fool. And here we are the fool. Walking up to the ledge and being offered the opportunity to take the leap, to start a new beginning, to reclaim our innocence, to reclaim our spontaneity and our free-spirited natures, which we are born in, and which we moved into this with. But again, too much of anything is not a good thing. Too much of this can lead to this. And the way out of it for this spread is this. When we start feeling the burden of doing the inner work, it's time to take the leap. Take a leap of faith into the next step. Whether we think we've completed it or not, we've never completed it. Whether we think we've completed it or not, it's time to take the next step. If we're beginning to feel this. Because when we begin to feel this, what happens? Our ability to do the work lessens. We lose the movement, the activity, the enjoyment of doing the inner work. And then we get into that Four of Cups, which we just saw in the central portion of the spread, right? So the time comes to do this work. That makes sense, does it not? So we're asked to take the leap. So now, friends, it's time for us to take the leap into the earth. Yeah, we leap from this is what we want to keep in our mind. This is what we want to remember, what we want to consider and give our attention to. We do the work of the high priestess. We go in and we want to keep our antenna alert to, are we moving into the Ten of Wands? And if we do, we want to keep our knowledge that we have the opportunity to move into the Fool, to take the leap forward, so that we can begin moving it forward again and start receiving that energy from the sun that is available to us in the Four of Cups from that previous day. Right? So now we're taking the leap into the earth, of the earthen part of the spread. Let's take a look at that. Friends, you'll notice that these two sections, the air and the earth, are going to be going a little bit quickly because, to me, they seem to be saying the same thing that the central portion of the spread said, in other words. So what were the words for the earth? What do we want to pay attention to, and what do we want to do in our day-to-day lives as we notice that progress of moving from the Four of Discs and our privilege and what we're expected, the burdens, and then noticing that in that place we are in the Ten of Cups, where we have this potential, we have this possibility, but we're right now feeling trapped, we're inside, we're anchored to our cross of our suffering, but that also gives us the rainbow of possibility, potential. So we move into the sun, where we do the inner work, we do the joining of bits and pieces of self together, and then we notice that as we're doing that, we may find ourselves in the Four of Cups, and then so it's time to take the reins, take hold of the reins and move forward again. Right? Break out of the ark, move onto land, and start taking advantage of the power that is available to us as we open to our powerful flow of intention. And we just saw that above, right? When the high priestess were there, but staying too long in the high priestess, we start to feel the burden of the Ten of Wands, and then we moved into the, okay, take the leap of the Fool. And in this set of three cards, we have almost the same idea, and the sun is back, right? From left to right, we had the Eight of Cups, another Cups card, the sun, Here comes the sun again, and the Knight of Cups. A lot of cups in this spread, right? We had wands, we had cups. One thing that we were missing in this whole spread is swords, right? Interesting thing, something to take note of. So maybe we need to do a little bit of thinking, maybe. But here we are. We've got some very sword-like, we have a very sword-like image in the scissors in the Eight of Cups. And that's where we'll begin. We begin with the Eight of Cups and move to the right. I don't see any reason why we need to read these cards in a different way. And this deck is also very similar to the previous deck. This deck is also one in which we are invited to step in. And here we're invited to step in and grab hold of those scissors and make the cut. Now, you'll notice in this Eight of Cups, there ain't no cups. There aren't any cups in this card, right? Instead, what do we have? We have water. This is all underwater. Perhaps this is an anchor rope, right? But this anchor rope is almost completely split apart. Both ends are frayed, and there's this one little bit of twine or rope, one little bit of rope still holding one end to the other, and we're here with the scissors ready to cut loose. And this reminds us of that anchor from the Ten of Cups in the central spread, right? But in that, so we had our Noah's Ark anchored to the cross, right? Anchored to our suffering. And that's what has kept us steady and stable. But maybe in order to move on, maybe we do need to make the cut. The Eight of Cups. What is the Eight of Cups in a standard? This is a Rider-Waite-Smith-based deck, right? It's the card of disappointment, of abandonment, either feeling abandoned or abandoning, right? We either are abandoned or we're the ones doing the abandoning. Withdraw, moving on, right? We've got all this crap that happened and it's just time to just let it go and move on. Whether we feel like we're the abandoned ones, we move away from whoever or whatever is abandoning us, or we're just doing the abandoning and saying no more, right? Detachment. But it could also be a spiritual journey. The Eight of Cups, it looks like a very sad, depressing card, especially with Pamela Coleman Smith's art. But there's also the idea that from that disappointment, we start on our spiritual journey. Perhaps our spiritual journey, well, we'll get there in a moment. So, in other words, in this card, we're reminded that, okay, sometimes it's time to just cut the rope that is anchoring us to where we are and begin our journey to detach, which we've been talking about, right? A little bit. And we can talk about that with the Ten of Cups from the central portion of the spread, that rope anchoring us to the cross, anchoring us to our suffering. Sometimes we need to cut that rope. And this is what this card is reminding us to do. So what do we do if we cut that rope, if we not let loose our anchorings in the sense of tossing it over the side of the ship so that we don't move? We want to cut anchor. Now the anchor is keeping us from moving forward. So what do we move forward to? What does this release us to do? It releases us to do the sun. Beautiful card. We're here. We are the naked baby sitting on a horse, holding the red ribbon or the red banner as we move along an ocean coastline, more water. Now we're here moving along the seashore. You notice the castle in the sand? So we want to be careful that we're not building castles in the sand, but that we are enjoying the experience of riding free and naked on our beautiful white horse through a gorgeous environment. It's a card of positivity, of fun, of warmth, the warmth of the sun, success. Now the sun can be harsh, right? If we stay out in the sun, we'll get burned and It'll hurt. But we're not there yet. This isn't that part of the sun. This is that warmth and vitality and attainment, getting stuff done. This is a beautiful card. In all decks, it's a beautiful card, but especially in this deck, this is a beautiful card. So we cut our anchor, we cut loose from our anchor, and we move forward into the sunlight, to our positivity. We reclaim our joy, our love, our gratitude, our appreciation, our satisfaction. We reclaim all of that, and we move directly into the Knight of Cups. Yeah, a card of movement, right? The knights are on horses, and you can see the shadow of us on our horse as we move into and through this arbor of beautifully flowering trees. A very romantic image, right? Perfect for the Knight of Cups, the romantic, the night of beauty, of romance, of charm, of imagination. So we reclaim our beauty, our romance, whether it's a romantic engagement with another one person, or it's a romantic engagement with our creative expression of art, or whether it's a romantic creation with a romantic connection with our creation of poetry, or our romantic connection with our creation of a home. Cleaning a house can be a romantic activity if we are in love with our homes. Now, we're suggested that we absorb the warmth and joy of the sun, and we stay on our horse and we ride forward as a knight to our active creativity, our enjoyment of the beauty of who we are and the beauty of where we are. Engaging our imagination to move forward with the powerful current of intention. Does that make sense? Can you see that? Can you see that all three of these sections of the spread are telling the same story in different ways and from different points? That sometimes it's time for us to not stop doing the inner work, but stop being solely focused on the inner work and start moving forward. As the Knight of Cups, as the Fool, as the Four of Cups in the central spread. Take hold of our reins, of our steering wheel, and engage. Just like the Starship Enterprise, engage, right? We can move forward. Whether it's at warp speed, or it's at the speed of a walking horse, or just us walking, or a movement with a wheelchair, whatever it is. We can start moving it. Literally or symbolically. Now maybe some of us are unable to even use a wheelchair. Maybe some of us are incapacitated, are unable to get up. And still we can do this. This is still a possibility, a potential. Not that you are being blamed or seen as less than if you are unable to achieve this at this moment. Don't feel like you do this or you're not good enough, you're unworthy. That's not what we're saying. But you have this potential. This whole spread is reminding us of our potential. And not to get stuck in the inner work. Sometimes we need to cut loose. To cut loose, right? Cut loose. So that's where we are. We have two cards of advice to integrate together, just like the sun. We want to integrate them. Let's take a look at those. Friends, this deck, this oracle deck, is also intended to be read with reversals. So this is also a deck in which I will split the deck in half, turn one side around, so that I'm intentionally shuffling in reversals every time I riffle shuffle. Yes, I riffle shuffle this deck as well. This is the back of the deck. This is what the backs of the cards look like. So, what did we get? We had, on one side, Starfish Spirit in reverse, and on the other side, we had Beaver Spirit in reverse. And let's start with Starfish Spirit. Starfish Spirit, let me show you the card, upright. Beautiful card. Now we've got a beautiful starfish on what looks like a bed of sand with a red glowing color in the center, and it's just a gorgeous, gorgeous starfish. And on the bottom, if you can see the text, it says, open to infinite possibility. That's what we're being asked to do, right? This whole spread is asking us to open ourselves, to take the next step. So this card in reverse. In reverse, these are medicine perhaps, or protection. Now they give us a little bit of healing. So the healing message of this card is to remind us that we are limiting our own possibilities. Being realistic instead of dreaming big may be what is limiting our lives. Perhaps we've got some rigid beliefs, perhaps from that Four of Discs card in the central spread, part of the spread. I don't know why I keep saying the central spread is up there. It's not up there. But the central spread, the top card, the first card, the Four of Discs, remember those burdens of expectations? Those are our rigid beliefs. Those beliefs that we have the potential and the ability to break out of, to live our intentional lives. So we want to reconsider. Are we constrained by our rigid beliefs? Perhaps the rigid belief that I need to be enlightened in order to live my life intentionally. Perhaps the rigid belief that I need to be fully healed before I can manifest into the world. Perhaps the rigid belief that I have to be fully integrated in order to be happy. Now those are the things we want to move towards, certainly, but we don't want to stop our lives until we have accomplished those things. So, this card is reminding us to stretch beyond the familiar, to unfurl ourselves, like a starfish can unfurl the arms of its body. Because Spirit supports our beautiful intentions. Your intentions are beautiful. You are beautiful. Your intentions are beautiful. What you've placed on your river of intention is beautiful. Spirit supports all of that. The eternal beings that we are manifesting in these co-creative bodies that we are inhabiting, that eternal nature that we are and the fullness of the divine supports our intentions. The thing that's limiting us is us. And so, we have the next bit of advice. Lay a solid foundation. This is beaver. Let me show you beaver upright. Beautiful card. We got a beaver with a flower in their, behind their ear, I suppose, perched on some branches. And you know what a beaver does, right? A beaver, they're the animal that takes branches and creates a home for themselves from those branches. They build a dam and build a home for themselves, a protective shelter. But those protective shelters start with something really important. And at the bottom of the card, we're reminded of that important thing. Lay a solid foundation. Lay a solid foundation. So the medicine for this card, the healing for this card, in reverse, is that we might want to check our foundations. We might want to check to see if there is rotten wood down there. Because if we if we use that rotten wood as the foundation for our beautiful dreams, it's going to crumble, it's going to fall apart, and the dreams will collapse, right? This is all metaphorical, but you understand what that means. If our foundations are solid, our dreams will be on solid ground. If our foundations are rotting, they will break apart and the whole structure will collapse, metaphorically. So we want to know, what are the foundations that we are building our hopes on? Are we trying to build our hopes in order to fix ourselves? Are we trying to dream our dreams to prove our worthiness? Are we using our hopes and dreams as tools to fix ourselves? That's it. That's not good. That's not good. Yeah? Those are false dreams. Those are false hopes. They're the hopes and dreams of ego. They're desires of ego inflation. If I get this, I will be better. If I make this, I will be better. Right? Those are dreams and hopes based on rotted foundations. So, it's time to go back and shore up the foundations that we've laid, to get rid of the rotten wood of unworthiness, of being less than, of needing to prove ourselves, of being powerless, of being victims. Get rid of all that, get rid of the rotten wood, and build our dreams on a solid foundation. Understanding and accepting who we are now will show us the blueprint of the solid foundation for our intentions. Does that make sense? Can you understand that? That if we really know who we are, wounds and all, from soup to nuts, as they say, from soup to nuts, if we really know ourselves, not that we have to fix ourselves, but know and accept ourselves for who we are, then we have that solid foundation on which to build our castle of dreams, our worthy, intended, joyful, divinely supported castle of dreams. And understanding ourselves will show us the blueprint of how to do that. So that's why we do the inner work, right? So when we got that foundation laid, the divine is ready to co-create with us. So it's time to get busy like a beaver. So get busy like a beaver. Yes, busy like a beaver. Check the foundations. Get rid of the rotten wood. Discover who we really are. But it doesn't stop there, right? We need both of these together. We get the foundation, we know who we are, we get the blueprint for the foundation, we start laying the foundation, and as we lay that foundation, we expand ourselves, we spread ourselves out, we get rid of those limiting beliefs that I need to be fixed before I can live. So integrated, these two together give us the idea of that entire spread. And guess what? Just in case you want to know, these are the last two cards that I pull in the entire spread. And it's interesting and it's wonderful and inspiring that these are the cards that showed up at the end of the spread, giving us the encapsulated message of the whole thing, right? Does that make sense to you? I hope it does. It makes sense to me. If it does make sense to you, let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. If you have questions, if you wonder, did I skip a piece that would have made this make more sense, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to engage. I'd love to have conversation with you. And friends, if you are still here, hit the thumbs up button so YouTube knows that you enjoyed this, you got something out of it, and other people might get something out of it, so it brings more eyes to the channel if you hit the thumbs up button. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and hit the alarm bell. I'm going to be doing a deep dive into a new deck starting next week, starting this week actually. At the end of this week is the new moon, and so I'm going to do a deep dive into a deck, and I'll tell you about that and why I'm doing that in a later video. But so hit the alarm bell so you get notifications of when I upload videos. I'm probably going to try to do about one a day for a little while. And subscribe, hit thumbs up, and comment below. I would love to hear from you. Oh, and if you would like a private reading from me, my email address is also below. Shoot me an email, say, I want a reading. We'll figure it out. Any kind of reading you want. I'm here for you. I want to be here for you. And I am here for you. So friends, now, as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.